Yo, what's up guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to go over the trades that we took on Friday as well as the game plan going into this week. So on Friday, this is how we opened up for SPY. 30-minute chart tells us the trend in the market. So we had the 6:30 calls, and we could see right here off of open, we ended up closing below this 30-minute 50. On the call side, we couldn't flip bullish. That's what we were kind of waiting for on Friday, was to see if this 30-minute chart here could flip the market bullish. But that wasn't the case. The 50 SMA never curled. We closed below the 50, and we're still neutral. So going into this week, we are neutral because the call side isn't crossed. We could see 10 went below the 50 again, so we are neutral. If we look at the higher time frames, the call side does look pretty bad. I'm not gonna lie. Like the 2-hour ended up going negative here. 4-hour we could see is actually starting to lose the 50. 10's down, 50's curled down a little bit, and then the daily chart as well. It's not the best looking, daily chart in the world. We did close well the 50. 50 still up. We're gonna have to see what contracts we get tomorrow. If we get a gap down, we'll probably get the 625s for the week. So, going into this week, we are pretty neutral. So, what are we gonna be looking for? Just a cross on either side of the premium for tomorrow. That's pretty much the game plan. Call cross, put cross. I'm gonna be open to both. And then if we flip to the put side, that we are actually around this 30-minute 50 on the put side. So if we get any pop into that 50, most likely it might get a reject. We'll kind of just have to see, what do we look like right off of open to gauge, where are we going to be going, see if there's any large gap up, gap down, or what the case may be. I know futures are down quite a bit right now. I think they gap down like 100 points. So, I'm not that bearish, but, obviously if we do get a gap down, this chart crosses, then I would have to, flip to short-term bearish, since the bears would have the trend if we do get this cross. So pretty much watch for a 30-minute cross on either side of these charts to gauge the trend. If there's no cross, then we're still neutral. So neutral market game plan is always the same. 0DT cross on either side of the premium is the best trade to look for. And if we do hit one of these 50 SMAs and one of the sides is crossing, let's say the puts are crossing right near this 50, probably not going to take it. I'm going to wait for the negative cross in that scenario. But that's pretty much the game plan for all neutral markets. And what do we take on Friday? So pretty simple. I didn't take anything on SPY. There was really nothing to take. You can see how choppy this was. There was nothing for me to take. I just didn't like this action at all. Call side super choppy. Put side, same thing. I mean, we ended up getting this little cross off of open, but I'm not taking this because you can see the SMAs are so extended from the price. So price is at $1. These are all the way at like 0.50, like the SMAs. Obviously they ended up moving up as time went on, but this is not a trade that I'm taking. Too extended from the 50 SMA and the 10 to take this trade. And then this ended up pulling back, and yes, this chart to go negative right here, but this 50 SMA was really weird. It ended up curling up at some point right in here. So at that point, it's not the best negative cross in the world. I really haven't been taking that many negative crosses. If I'm going to be honest, the best trade to look for is always that cross. If we're really neutral, negative crosses sometimes won't be the best trade. If you're looking for the best setup every day, it's just a cross, like positive cross. That's your go-to. And we didn't get it right here. It looked like maybe we were going to cross, but then it came back down, hit the 50 again, and then we finally got a little pump. But nothing for my interest in terms of SPY on Friday. But what we did take was some really good option setups. So I went over this in the last video. NVIDIA, we ended up swinging this into Friday, and man, we caught a massive move. I mean, Friday, so going into Friday, this is what we looked like on the Friday contracts. The July 11th contracts were really good setup. I gave these contracts out at 0.55. That was pretty much the dead bottom, and you could see what happened. These went all the way up to $3 a contract. These ran a couple 100%. Gave this to the Discord. I mean, I told you guys, this is either going to be a couple 100% runner, or we're going to get stopped on the closure below the 50. So the risk to reward on this setup was very, very high. I mean, we entered this at 0.55. That's when the 10 SMA curled, 50 started curling, and look at the move. I mean, this was very, very textbook. Obviously, we had this nasty wick right off of open. So, as long as that 50 held, I was going to be in. But again, we picked new contracts on Friday. So if we look here to the actual contracts, this is what the chart looked like. You can see, I mean, this chart was super, super clean. I mean, 10 went above the 50. Obviously, this happened during the day yesterday, but I didn't have these contracts pulled up yet. We had the other ones, and actually, I did get stopped on this initially. I told you guys, I took like a 50-60% loss on it, and then we make up for it for like 300%. So I mean, I saw the reward in this type of trade, and that's why I did re-enter it. I saw some people in the Discord like not re-enter it because we already took a loss. Like that's not that's not, you know, straying away. Like, it's not gonna get me not to take a trade. It's the same. Like, I'm taking the same setup. I knew this thing was gonna rip. It was just a matter of when. So, you know, when we got stopped at that initial trade and then I saw it go across again, I'm like, okay, this thing I think it's time right now to actually send, because if you look at the higher time frames, look at this chart. I mean, the 4-hour was crossed, the daily chart was crossing. It was a weird kind of chart. I still do like Nvidia for upside, because if we look at this chart, the daily's just crossing here. And then if we flip again, like the higher time frames on that 4-hour was crossing, and then if we go back to the 30-minute here, you could see, you know, we're pulling back to this 50 SMA right here. I mean, I still like Nvidia for a long. If we don't get a massive gap down tomorrow on Nvidia where this breaks the 30 or the 30-minute 50, then I'm pretty bullish on Nvidia still. But yeah, I like Nvidia still for some upside. We'll have to see how we open up tomorrow, but yeah, that was a banger trade in the Discord. Couple 100%. Initially stopped for 60, re-entered on the cross, sold it for like I don't even know, like over 300%. I ended up selling my runners at. So it was a really good trade. If we pull up now, UAL, this is another good looking setup I like. If we pull up the daily here on the July 18th contracts, this is looking to cross. You know, it's a little early because there is still a gap between the two SMAs, but if we do get the 30-minute chart to cross, then I will really like this. So again, 4 hours starting to cross, 50 is still down, so it's pretty much, you just have to wait for this 30-minute chart right here to end up crossing again. You can see we end up getting this cross on Friday, and look at the move. It was a very fat move, 1.7 and 383. It's a pretty good move on the premium. Now all I'm waiting for is this 30-minute chart to cross, and that's going to be my entry point on the UAL trade. But we're picking new contracts on this week for the monthlies. So as you guys know, this is like the new way of trading the stocks. We use the monthly contracts, which by monthly I mean if you pull up Thinkorswim and go to the options chain, I went over this before, but just to recap it, you pull up the options chain and they're labeled like on the chain. All of them are going to say weeklies except for one contract throughout the month, and that's the monthly contract, and that's the one you want to be using the higher time frames with. So like the 4-hour and daily is pretty much the only time frames that I'm using for these contracts. It's just to gauge the higher time frame trend. You can see on the 4-hour on UAL, 10's going above the 50. Obviously, we might even get the 90 calls depending on where we open up tomorrow. I'm not sure what those look like. I'm gonna actually switch this real quick to 90, see if these look any better on the 90 call. Let's see if the daily 50's here. No, it's not. For some reason, no daily 50 on this chart. So, I still like the setup though. I mean, the 4 hours just crossing. Other time frames are all crossed. So all we're waiting for is the 30-minute on the July 18th contracts to cross on the 30-minute, and that's going to be our entry point. If we don't get the cross on the 30 on the July 18th, then there's no entry point. It's pretty simple. So UAL, that's what I'm going to be looking for this week. And then last one is CVX. I really like this chart. I mean, daily chart is crossing on the July 18th contracts. Obviously, it's still a little early. 50 still down. It did break above once, twice here. So again, if we pull up this 30-minute chart, I'm probably just going to be waiting for a little bit of a dip. I did take a starter position on Friday, but not really with much size. If we get any sort of dip near this 50, probably going to add it, because if we actually pull up I don't have the contracts pulled up, but the August contracts are for the monthlies are already crossing the daily, so I imagine CVX is going to get a nice rip. So I'm going to be looking to buy any dip on this chart, anywhere near this 50 estimate. That's where I'm going to be buying this. If we don't get a dip, we don't get a dip, but I'm going to let my like starter position run, but I'm confident we'll get some sort of dip where we could add this, because the daily chart just crossed on, I think, Friday. So I expect CVX to go higher. Any dip gets soaked up, and that's what I'm really looking for on CVX. So those are some freebies for the week. I'm gonna I'll touch on some stocks every day when I make a video to see what I'm looking for, but obviously the premium will get the entries. So if you guys do want the live entries of when we're taking these swings, then that's the place to be, and that's also the place to be if you want to learn, because I'm always sharing game in there, even in the free chat. Like, I'm posting charts of what I'm looking for and why I took certain trades. So if you want to learn, join Discord, watch all the videos on the YouTube, and you're definitely gonna pick up on some things. In my opinion, these option charts are the easiest way to read the market. I mean, I know some people out there just hate the style of trading. I don't know what it is, but some people just have a strong hatred for SMAs because they've had a bad experience with them. No one trades stocks like this on Twitter, on YouTube, on anything, because this is if you're watching this video, you are one of the only few people that actually know the strategy exists. A lot of people, I know, like some people do trade crosses on options contracts, but they're not trading it with the Heikin-Ashi candles. They're not trading it based on the, where we open. They're not trading it based on the weekly contract, plus, giving us that bias, and then using the 0DT chart for entry for SPY and things like that. And we're now using the monthly contracts. So, there's a lot that goes into the system, and no one else out there trades these contracts that like how me and Colton do in the Discord. So in my opinion, easiest way to trade. If you guys do want to learn, like I said, join Discord down below. But that's pretty much all I got going into tomorrow. So drop a like, drop a sub if you're new. I'm out. Peace.